Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Zaggertastic video. It is I, your friend, the one, the only Z, a single G-erd, Zaggard, and I hope you're all having a wonderful morning, noon, night, evening, whatever time it is for you today. Welcome back to the Dragon's Den, my friends, and we are here to talk about a horror film. Yes, I know, a horror film. I don't like horror. I cannot enjoy it usually. I cannot play horror games. I get scared very easily. I get too into films and games and movies, so it tends to freak me out, and I get anxiety and very nervous when the characters are in scary situations.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
I'm always just looking over their shoulders. There's some tension. Instead of looking at the character like I'm here, instead of looking here, I'm looking here or here. And I just keep swapping between the two. I'm like, when is someone gonna show up? When is someone gonna jump over them? You know? So I'm not great with horror films. That being said, my fiance Claire really loves horror. She loves horror. It's her whole thing. And we have a deal that I watch one horror film per year for her. This is my big one, I think. I think she's already used her chance on this one. She used it earlier on that Vampire Girl one, but I don't even count that one as horror after watching it. She said it was horror, and it kind of starts out as a horror film, and then it becomes a comedy action halfway through, which is totally fine. It's a fun film. Nothing wrong with it. This one, however, was straight horror. She told me that. She also told me about a certain person is in the film. We'll get to that in a second. But I will say, if you are a fan of horror and you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you are not a fan of horror films, I could recommend watching it. It is not like gory, which I really hate the Saw films because they're so gory and it just makes me feel like I want to vomit. Like I don't feel comfortable watching those in any sort of way. Like physically, I feel uncomfortable. It's not a jump scare fest. Like it doesn't just jump scare, like which really makes you feel freaked out. It's a good horror film because this film is not your typical just there's an evil monster or an evil killer and they're just killing people. It's more of a murder mystery. And if you can enjoy a murder mystery that's a little scary and makes you feel unnerved, then you can enjoy this. I will say that. I enjoyed it, but it did freak me out, but I still think it was good. For reference, I watched it last night. This is the next day. I wanted to let my thoughts kind of clear out on it so I can make a bit more of a coherent video than how it goes off in my head. As we all know, the name of the series is ADHD Review, and to try and curve the ADHD so that way it goes on a little bit more of a path, I let my thoughts kind of focus as much as I can. Also for reference, I'm recording this on the 17th of July. This video will come out way after that because I am leaving tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I'm gonna be gone for about 5 days. And then it's going to take me some time to actually edit this footage after the fact. So this will probably come out a full week after I've recorded this, if not a little more. Really quick, I just wanted to warn you that there are moments in this video where I describe some graphic stuff that may make you feel uncomfortable. I just wanted to make sure you knew that going into the video. That being said, here are my thoughts about the movie Longlegs. So the movie starts with this kind of old film, like an 80s or 70s film that they're recording, and even the screen itself is like way smaller than normal. It's about 1/4 the size of the full screen, and it's got curved box edges, and it shows this little girl in this house, and it's snowing, and this guy drives up in a truck, and she does the dumb person thing that every dumb person does in a movie and walks outside. And immediately I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's like, you don't know that person, they don't seem interested, but she just walks out like, oh, okay. And this guy shows up, and he's got this like weird face. We only see this part of his face, by the way. This whole part is covered the whole time this scene is going on, and he's talking. He's like, well, hello, little angel, someone has a birthday coming up, but I wore my long legs. So what happens if and then it has, in my opinion, the best jump scare in all of movie history, because it is barely a jump scare. It is so well done. Like, it's not a jump scare where it's just, ha, we got you, but like it has the tension build up, and it's not like just someone's walking around and you see like the thing go, like running behind her, you know. It's the person they're talking to, and it's not even like, I don't want to spoil what the jump scare is, but it is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best jump scare in all of movie history. And then after that scene, the movie goes into the starting credits, where it starts expanding out to fill up the entire screen to become a modern movie size. And we're now in the future, and we're following this woman who's being briefed at the FBI about a serial killer. And they're supposed to go door to door to try and find a Caucasian male, certain height. And our lead, Lee Riley, seems a little nervous. Like, she's not really talking. She's like kind of serious. She's kind of just like, kind of like she's a little on edge, which makes sense. They're looking for a serial killer. And her partner's like, I'll go out and ask the questions, you wait in the car. And while he's asking the first house, she looks around the neighborhood, gets outside. He comes up to her and she's like, it's that house, that one right there. And he's like, how do you know? We should call it in. We can't call it in just off your hunch on your first day. Doesn't work like that. Like that's gonna make us look bad. Which obviously, yeah, it would. Like, he has a very good reason not to call it in. Why would you call it in on your first hunch? Right? She's a new officer. They just started this case. There's no way she would know. And he's like, I'm gonna go at least ask some questions first. So he goes up to the house and he knocks on the door and goes, hello, have you seen this man? And immediately the guy gets shot. Just instantly, bam. And she's like, oh shit. And she pulls out her gun. She's like hyperventilating. And she goes inside. And she does the cop thing. She has the gun. She checks the corners. Right, the music's not playing. That's just in my head. And she goes up and she sees the guy and he's like, don't move. And he has his hands up and he goes, I won't. And immediately we realize weird shit's been going on. And two fellow FBI agents are talking to her. They're both clearly her superiors. And one is named Agent Carter. No, not that Carter. This is not a Marvel film. This Carter. This is Agent Carter. And he tells her, okay, So what's been going on is there's this killer. He has been serial killing people for the last 20 years. The only things we have in common is that it's always a family, and they always had a girl who had a birthday on the 14th. The month doesn't matter, it's just the day of the 14th. So it could be January 14th, it could be August 14th, it could be July 14th. Always, they were murdered, and they had a daughter with a birthday on a 14th of a month. And here's the really weird part. The way they are always murdered is the dad murders the mother and the children, and then kills himself. And the main serial killer is never found in the building. There's no DNA evidence to show him in the building. The only reason we know he's there is because he always leaves a letter behind with a bunch of weird symbols that says, "Happy birthday, Longlegs." So now you know why the film is called Longlegs. And we're following this character, Lee Riley, and she has just put on this case. And they're like, is she ready? And it's like, well, she's really smart. She keeps passing this random number generator and figures out the correct number. She did it 8 times in a row. And she goes, well, I've only figured out half of the time. And Agent Carter says, well, a half psychic is better than no psychic. So I want you to look at the evidence, see what you can figure out. So after like taking all the evidence and putting it on the floor, doing that detective thing that you see a lot in movies and TV shows, she looks at it, and then eventually she falls asleep on the floor looking at the evidence. And her boss comes in and he's like, all right, come on, let's pack it up. We're gonna go out for a drink. Let's relax. We gotta relax our brains. Don't want to push ourselves too hard. She goes, I don't drink. Sorry, sir. Okay, fine. I drink. You tell me what you think. And they go to a cigar club and they're drinking. And by the way, this movie is in the 90s. The way you can tell is he has a picture of Bill Clinton in his office hanging behind him in the FBI. So it's either the 90s or this guy's just a really big fan of Bill Clinton for some reason. So after he has his drink, he's like, here, drive me home. I'm too drunk. Showing he's a good guy. He's a smart, sensible guy. They get to his house and his wife shows him like, finally you're home. And his daughter goes, you were supposed to call to tuck me in to say goodnight. Sorry, I forgot. Time got ahead of me. Speaking of time, it's tomorrow. You're supposed to be in bed. And then she looks at our main character, Lee Riley, and goes, do you want to see my room? Which, no, why would an adult want to see her room? And thankfully the main character goes, she's like really uncomfortable with it, just like I was. And both the parents are like, go ahead, it's fine. And so they're sitting in the room and she's like, okay. And then she's just like, kind of like, what am I doing here? And eventually they talk and the girl's like, can you come to my birthday? It's coming up soon. Again, what the heck? What is it with kids in movies and TV shows, by the way, that always invite adults into their rooms unprompted and invite them to their birthdays unprompted? What? I never did that as a kid. I was never like, hey, do you want to see my room? Hey, do you want to come to my birthday? Like, I never said that to an adult. I rarely said that to my friends as a kid, so maybe I'm the weird one. If you constantly did that as a child, please tell me why, because I need to know. I don't get it. It's weird. It's strange. I don't get it. Get rid of it. So the girl goes to bed and they're like, yeah, Lee can go to your birthday, Ruby. So already we've had the information that she has a birthday coming up and Longlegs kills girls who have birthdays on the 14th. They don't say what her birthday is, but already that was in the back of my head like, oh, okay. They mentioned that. That's going to be important. So after leaving, she's driving home. She gets home and she calls her mom and her mom's like, hi, honey, how are you? Oh, you know, things are kind of rough. Stuff at work. Not nice things. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Well, have you been reading your prayers? You know, Mom, and then we just hear a loud knock on the door, just like the loudest knock ever. And she checks the door. She like warily checks the door, and then she looks outside her window and she sees a person, just like the silhouette of a person standing there. And so she gets her gun and goes outside. And normally in a horror film, I'd be like, no, don't go outside, stay inside your house. However, like I said, first of all, she's an agent. She has to check it out. That is kind of her job. That is what she's trained to do. Second, she takes her gun with her. She doesn't do the stupid thing and leave the gun and go outside and be like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just go outside and check. No, she's like, who are you? Where are you? What are you doing here? Why are you on my, like, she's looking for them. So she's already doing one step smarter than most horror movie characters. So then she's looking around the dark, trying to find this person, and she looks back at her house and she sees a man walking in her house. So she runs back in her house, checks all the rooms, and then she goes back to the desk she was sitting at talking to her mom, and there is a letter that says, do not open until the 14th. Well, she's not an idiot, like I already pointed out. She's actually a very smart character. So she opens it very slowly. I think she even put on gloves. I can't remember, but I do remember she was like opening it with tools and things, and it takes out a card and it says happy birthday. So now we know our main character is a woman with a birthday on the 14th. And what does Longlegs do? Kill families who have a daughter with a birthday on the 14th. Suspicious, weird. So she opens it up. It has the same notes, the same characters like all the murder scenes, but then underneath each of the characters, it has a word that's written out and it says, happy birthday, Riley, Longlegs. And she's able to decipher the code from that because he used a lot of the same letters in his sentence he wrote to her, which means he used a lot of the same characters. So she's able to figure out, oh, this character is this letter, these characters are these letters, da da da. And she puts another code that's on the back together and it says, if you're under a certain age, mute the video for a bit. I will have a symbol right here that has a mute symbol or a skip symbol because it's really disturbing what it says. Alrighty? 3, 2, 1. Now, I don't remember exactly what it says, but what I remember is it says something along the lines of, don't tell them how you got this, or I will cut off your sagging tits and bleed you out. Just freaking creepy, okay? This movie is disturbing at times. That was freaky. And while she's reading it, you see this silhouette of like a human just like appearing, like out of the shadows, like, and then the scene ends, and we're in the next scene, and you're like, what was going on there? Was he standing there? Who was that? Like, there is imagery in this. There's a lot of like really creepy, dark imagery. Like it's freaking scary, and it is done well. The imagery in this, they use very little CGI, and when they use it, it's sparingly, and it's in very small amounts, and it doesn't try to look too realistic. It looks fake, but in a good way. And it is scary. So well done to that. So remember, she was on the phone with her mom. So she calls her mom back when she's at work. And her mom's like, honey, is everything going okay? How are you? am I gonna see you? Your birthday's coming up soon. Yeah, Mom, maybe. I'll try to make it there. Is something wrong? Is it not nice things? Remember, you can tell me about it. I used to be a nurse. I remember seeing some terrible things. And being a good agent, she goes, oh, no, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not legally allowed to. And then she asks, have you been saying your prayers again? So clearly a very religious person, not unbelievable in the 90s. And right before, and she goes, Mom, I'll talk to you later. And she hangs up and she's kind of like hyperventilating. And so then Lee and Agent Carter get a clue that tracks them down to a girl named Carrie Ann, who was one of the families who was murdered. However, Carrie Ann survived because she wasn't there when her family was murdered. She was at school. But ever since then, she's been catatonic in a mental institution. So of course they go to track that lead down, but first they want to check the barn where she lives. And they find a barn and it has a bunch of X's on it. X marks the spot. And they rip the floorboards out and inside is a box. And they pull the box open and it's this really well-made doll, and it does that creepy doll thing while they're looking at it, where it's like just out of nowhere. It is, I hate when they do that in movies, and it is freaky. So they bring it back to the autopsy to kind of have them check it out, and the guy is like, it's a very well-made doll. Whoever made this has a love for his craft. He's very good at what he does. But I found in the head a sort of kind of brain thing, and it's this metal sphere, and he goes, there's nothing unique about it. It is empty. We can tell it is, but when you do this, and he puts this device on it and starts making this high-pitched ringing noise, and all of a sudden our main character, she zones out for a second, and all of a sudden there's this imagery, the screen is all red like blood, and it shows this image of like a snake going and a bunch of like creep, and then like some devil imagery, and it flashes back to her. And clearly there's something up with that orb. It does something weird. We can't tell what. It just does something weird. And so they're like, okay, that was strange. Let's go talk to the survivor, Carrie Ann. And they go to the mental institution she was at, and the doctor's like, yeah, for years, all I've known is she just sits there and stares at the wall. But then suddenly, yesterday, she has a visitor who comes in, and now she's all chatty. She's talking with everybody. I've never seen her do that in over 20 years, and I've been here the whole time. And they're like, oh, who is this visitor? Do you have camera footage of him? Or did you make him check ID? Oh no, that would be a good idea, but no, we don't check ID here. Maybe we should start doing that. And I immediately was like, yeah, you freaking should. I get it's the 90s, but like mental institutions, yeah, have them check IDs. Anyway, so they're like, you don't check ID? Well, do you have anything to identify him? Oh, well, he signed in on the logbook. And they check who signed in as a visitor. And the name is Lee Riley. And what's the name of our main character? Lee Riley. And we know our main character has not visited this Carrie Ann yet. So we're already like, what the heck is going on? And they go talk to Carrie Ann, and they're like, who's the guy who visited you? And it's like, oh, I was so happy to see him. It was so great. I'd do anything he said. Whether he said if I should slit your throat, burn you alive, or if I should just jump off the window, I would just hop skippity to it. What the flapjacks? And I just gotta say, this whole time I'm feeling super unnerved. But if you want me to feel less unnerved, then click that like and subscribe button.
Fuck off.
Whoa, please don't click away. We still have more of the video to talk about. I promise it's not cringe like that. Thank you. Anyways, and so they leave, and her boss, Agent Carter's like, how does he know your name? Why does he know your full name? Why does Longlegs know your name? She's like, I don't know. And Agent Carter says, I looked into your record. Did you know your mom called in about a trespasser around your 9th birthday? She's like, no, I didn't know about that. You should probably talk to your mom then. Try to see if she's somehow connected or she knew this guy. So already we're like really unnerved. And like, what is her connection with Longlegs? Does he know her? What's going on? And you might have figured out a little bit of it already, but I'm gonna keep going for those of you who haven't. So after she's told by her boss to go visit her mom, we actually get to see an image of Longlegs. We see his face finally. We see him talking and moving. And it's played by the one, the only Nicolas Cage. And he does such a good job in this role. Anybody who says Nicolas Cage can't act, watch this film, tell me again. If you still think he can't act, you don't know what acting is. This guy, he plays it so well. He is so creepy as Longlegs. The prosthetics they put on him, the way he moves his face, the way he acts. We see him like building the dolls, and then he builds one. He's like, little angel, how you doing? I'm gonna put you in the dark now, but you don't mind that because you are darkness itself. And he puts this like cloth over her, and it covers her form, but then all of a sudden like the cloth becomes see-through, and you see like this demon shape with these red eyes looking through the cloth. It's like, oh my freaking god. And it shows him sitting on this mat on the floor, just like a mattress on the floor. He's like going and you see in like this corner of the room, it becomes all shadow, and you see like this form, this like humanoid form with horns coming in the shape of a shadow. And then it cuts away, and we're with Lee Riley talking to her mom. And her mom has this kind of tired look. Her hair's graying. You ever meet those women who are past the middle age, around 60, 70, and their hair's kind of graying, and they look kind of tired. And her mom kind of looks that way. She keeps talking to her, and she's like, why did you call in about someone trespassing when I was 9? Do you remember that on my birthday? She goes, that never happened. No one ever visited us. We always lived alone. She's like, Mom, are you sure about that? And her mom immediately like changes the subject. Clearly, like something's going on. She's like, do you still say your prayers? And she goes, Mom, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like my prayers. They scare me. And her mom just laughs. Mom just starts laughing like, yeah, our prayers won't save us. Only what we do will save us. She goes, Mom, I'm a little hungry. Do you want me to make us some food? She's like, sure, that would be nice. And while she's in the kitchen, she sees this door. This door she doesn't really fully recognize. And we see like this dark aura coming off it. And a cockroach kind of crawls out from underneath the door. And she's right out to kind of like open it. And her mom goes, honey, is the food ready yet? She goes, yeah, Mom. bringing it over, and she's talking to her mom, and her mom goes, you know, I don't really think anybody ever visited us, but I kept everything of yours. Everything we ever had, I never threw it away. All your stuff is in your room upstairs. She goes into her room, and she looks in this box that she remembers seeing as a kid, and she opens it up, and she sees a picture, and all these images flash through her head, like these satanic images, the image of the snake, the blood. She has the picture. We don't see the picture, but she has it, and she brings it to Agent Carter, and she's like, this is the guy. He's like, are you sure we want to put a manhunt for this one guy? And she's like, yeah, this is the guy, I'm sure. And we cut back to Longlegs, and he's at this convenience store, and he's putting something on the table, like gum or something, and there's this teenage girl working at the convenience store table, and he goes all, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. And she's like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what is that? And he goes, what's your birthday, little angel? And the guy, she calls for her dad, and then the next scene, it shows him like driving, and he's like screaming. He's like, mommy, daddy! And he's like screaming, like this really weird scream out of nowhere. And they're mobilizing to try and pull him in. And the whole time, while they're looking for him, Lee Riley looks at all the birthdays and circles when they were murdered, and notices that each of them were murdered within 6 days before or after their birthday. And if you line up all the numbers, it makes an upside down triangle, which is the satanic occultish symbol. One of the numbers that is circled isn't part of the line. It's the number 13. She's like, there's something weird, but why can't I figure this out? And eventually they capture him and they bring him in, and she's like, there's something about this number 13. I don't think he was alone, because why would they let in this random weird looking guy? Because he's a weird looking guy. He looks weird. He acts weird. Why would they let him into their home to put one of these dolls that supposedly makes them kill each other? He must have had some sort of accomplice, someone that the family knew. I want to interrogate him. And they're like, okay, fine, figure it out. And she starts talking to him, and he's like, Lee Riley, it's good to see you. You know, your birthday's coming up, you little angel. I remember when you were 16 and you figured out the day you wanted to be in law enforcement. Why, we laughed and laughed. Well, she wasn't laughing. And she's all, tell me who your accomplice is. Who are you working with? And he goes, oh, maybe you should ask your mommy about some stuff. And he just starts slamming his head on the table over and over till like a piece of his face are falling off. His nose breaks off. There's like almost nothing left. It's like this open gaping wound. And he goes, Hail Satan! And then slams his head so hard on the table that his head just bursts open and blood splatters everywhere. And well, he's dead now. And right before he died, he says, when I'm gone, there will be a little piece of me in everyone, just as the man downstairs intended, the man I work for. And it's this really unnerving scene, and her boss like, what was that? You let him die? Now we won't know who the accomplice is. And you know, they saw on the recording, because they have a video recording of it, that he said talk to her mom. So she goes with another higher agent, and they go talk to her, and they drive up, and she goes, we want to bring her into questioning, but I don't want to scare her, so I should go in first. And the other agent goes, yeah, okay, sounds like a good idea. And the doors open just a little bit, so we know someone's inside. Maybe someone broke in. She goes in, she takes out her gun, she's looking around. And we go back to the agent sitting in the car, and all of a sudden her mom is behind her, standing behind the car, and she has a shotgun, and she walks up right next to it and just goes, blam, shoots her in the head. And Lee Riley hears that. You know, it's a loud gunshot, like blam. And then she does it a second time, you know, gotta make sure they're dead, double tap, blam. And she runs outside, sees the car with all the windows splattered in blood, runs to the side of the house and sees her mom standing in front of one of those creepy dolls. And it kind of looks like a young Lee Riley. And she goes, I free you now, and shoots the doll in the head. And you see this dark aura coming out of the broken neck stump. And then Lee Riley goes unconscious, and we see like a dark aura coming out of her head. And then we flash back, and we see she was the little girl that Longlegs was talking to in the beginning, and she took a picture of him. That's the picture that they used to find him. And then she says, there once was a mommy and her little girl, and no one lived with them. No one visited them, no friends, no family, until one day someone did. And we learn that he was going to kill her because her birthday was on the 14th, but her mom said, no, please don't kill her. I'll make a deal with you. I'll help you kill anybody else that you need to kill for your sacrifices, for your satanic ritual, so long as you don't kill my daughter. And he goes, okay, that's a deal we can work out. We see our main character, she's waking up, she's got a headache, and she's opening her eyes slowly, and we see she's in the workshop where he's been making these dolls that we've been seeing throughout the film in different parts. She sees the hand with the ball, she sees his weird mat, we see like the shadowy kind of stuff all around the room, and she runs up the stairs, and she opens a door, and it's the kitchen she was in earlier. It was her mom's house. The guy was living in their basement the whole time, and the phone rings, and she picks it up, and she hears this demonic voice,
You're late for Ruby's party.
and she's like, oh no. And she pulls a car out of her mom's garage, and she drives there, and there's her mom sitting there, and she's in this nurse's outfit. And then we get a flashback, and it shows what they did. She would go up to people's houses and go, knock, knock, knock. Congratulations, you won a gift from the church. And it would be one of those dolls, and then the dolls would cause the dad and the mom to go crazy, so that the dad would kill the mom, and then the daughter, and then himself every single time. And the mom had to watch to make sure that the ritual happened, to keep Lee from being murdered by Longlegs. And whose house are we at? Ruby's, which is Agent Carter's house. And there's Ruby Carter, hugging a doll that looks just like her. She loves it so much. And suddenly, Agent Carter and his wife, like his wife is just like, ah, doing that creepy smile, like nothing's wrong. And Agent Carter's like, sit down. He's like all angry, and he's like, come with me, honey. We gotta go cut the cake. She's like, yeah, we'll be right back. No, you won't be back. I'll be back. You'll stay in there. And she goes, ah. And the mom is like, you have to let this happen. If you don't, we'll be twisted in hell forever. He will punish us. And she's like, no, Mom, we can't do this. And then we just hear in the other room, the wife screaming. We hear squish, stab, squish, stab, squish. And the wife is screaming, and out comes Agent Carter, and he's like, and he starts to walk towards Ruby with the knife, and Lee shoots him, kills him. And then her mom pulls out a knife and goes, "You ruined the sacrifice. Hail Satan!" And she starts running towards him, and she shoots and kills her own mother. And then she pulls Ruby away from the doll, and she's like, she tries to shoot it, but the gun won't go off. She keeps trying to pull it, and she's out of ammo. She's like, "We have to leave. We have to leave. We have to get out of here, Ruby." But she won't move. She's frozen with fear. And then we hear Longlegs' voice humming in her mind going, "Happy birthday." And the movie ends. And it was just holy. It was so freaky. Like, the imagery done in this the whole time was scary. They did a great job of making you feel unnerved, but never really fully disgusted. I never felt disgusted with the violence. Like, it felt real. It felt so grounded. And one of the things I love about this is you can either determine that he's using some sort of satanic magic in these dolls to control people, or he knows how to use some psychological sound mind bending. They don't say which one it is. The visuals tell you that it is satanic magic, but that could just be how Riley sees it. Because this whole time she's had one of those balls in her own doll that's been locking her memories away and slowly pointing her in the right direction. That's why at the beginning she was able to figure out where the guy was, because she has the memories of where they would be and where her mom would have gone. And it's like it has so many questions that you can answer. It doesn't answer anything for you. You can answer, well, okay, I shouldn't say it doesn't answer anything for you. It tells you exactly what happened, how they killed them, and who the accomplice was. But how it worked, they don't tell you, and I don't think it should. I think it should leave some mystery. Because if it tells you, then it's going to be boring. But this mystery that it leaves is so great. And again, every actor in this was great. Everyone was fantastic. Nicolas Cage, fantastic. I'm going to look up the other actors because they deserve some praise. Micah Monroe, she was great. She was our main character. Blair Underwood, he did a great job. I loved every scene he was in. He was doing a great job as her boss. The one who plays her mom, Alicia Witt, she did a great job playing that, like, kind of unnerved character where we can tell there's a secret, but we can't tell if she's keeping it hidden or she actually forgot or what's going on. I didn't figure it out one bit. I thought this was really great. And my friend, the Mythology guy, this guy, he would probably love this film, I'm gonna be honest, but he might hate the ending. I feel like this is the kind of ending that would bug him because it doesn't fully explain how everything worked. I thought the ending was great, although I was sad it wasn't a happier ending, but it's a good horror film. Good horror films don't usually have, and everything just worked out, da 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 da. You know, they usually leave you a little unnerved. And this was an enjoyable film. Like I said, if you can't handle horror films like I usually can't, you may or may not be able to watch this film. If you're not sure, watch it with friends, watch it in the middle of the day, at home, after it's out on streaming services or whatever. If you think you can handle it, go watch it. It is great. I think this is gonna be one of those horror films that people talk about for a long time. I think everything about it was fantastic. And again, you know, me and this guy, the Mythology guy, we're Nicolaites. We belong to the Church of Cage. So I had to see this movie. If it's a Nicolas Cage movie, I have to see it. If you're also a fan of Nicolas Cage, go watch the film. If you're a Nicolite like me, like the Mythology guy, then you'll like this film regardless of if it's good because it has Nicolas Cage. Anyways, that was Longlegs. I don't have anything else to say about this film except for go watch it. It was really good. Hey there. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. It really helps me make more content knowing people like what I have to say. Also, if you like this video, maybe you'll like the one YouTube recommends on the left side of your screen. And if you're interested, on the right side is one of my playlists. And finally, remember the #1 rule here. Don't believe in yourself. Believe in me, who believes in you. Bye-bye.